Curious to Know, brought to you by Crossroads. Today, I'm joined by Nick Khzouz from B Money Property. It's finally nice to have you, Nick.
Good to be here, man. Thank you.
We've been speaking for about 2 months now,
At
trying
least,
to
yeah.
organize this. So we're finally here. So what I want to be talking about with you is, your journey from, starting the corporate world,
Mm,
to basically going into B Money Property, investing, starting family, and of course, with everything that's happening now, what investors, first home
mm.
buyers, what they should be looking for to making the best decisions for themselves. So I wanted to start with you. Who is Nick Khzouz? Like, where did you start? How did you get into like a buyer's agency? Like, was it always on your mind that you wanted to get into property?
I love property from day one. I never thought about it as a career. When I thought of property 10 years ago,
Yep,
10, 11 years ago when I entered the workforce, I only thought of property from the sales side.
yep,
Buyers agents, they're very popular now, but they weren't really popular back then.
yep.
Who am I? Man, I just made my way through uni, got my law degree, got my admission as a lawyer back in 2019. And roughly around that time, I just realized I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't enjoy the billable aspect of it, didn't enjoy the culture. No offense to the lawyers out there, but
Yeah,
they're not an easy bunch to work with, especially when you're talking about the upper tier. It's very cutthroat. And I feel like it distracts you from the work so much that you're focused too much on the politics itself of the corporate environment.
right.
I wanted something I can really sink my teeth into and that I love. So 10 years working through corporate law, banking, finance. Um, did the job, paid the bills, made good money.
Yep,
They pay well when you get to a particular point, but there's a ceiling at the top that you can't really get across.
yep.
Um, so I wanted to forge my own path, create my own autonomy. I've always wanted to be in business, but never really knew what I wanted to do. And if I were to do anything, I wanted to be really good at what I do. So here we are.
Did you ever have an ambition like I want to become a lawyer? Like when you were working, you like I want to open up my own practice. I want to be a principal. I want to.
Oh yeah,
You wanted
yeah.
to do the whole entire thing.
Oh yeah. I grew up
Yeah.
during the whole Suits era on TV.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. All right.
Harvey Specter,
Yeah, yeah,
Michael
yeah,
Rowe.
yeah.
So I got
Yep.
inspired by that.
Yep.
And like even before that, I wanted to be like an AFP officer. Like I
Yep.
really wanted to join the AFP.
AFP.
Yeah.
Why? What's the reason
I
with
don't know.
AFP?
I wanted to be involved in like high profile criminal matters and just like
Was it
anti.
something that had happened at a childhood time where like I
Nah,
want to
man.
defend, I want to.
I love the adrenaline. I don't know. I love the adrenaline of being involved in stuff like
Yeah.
that. You watch it on the media, you watch
Yeah.
the bus sounds and all the action involved with that. So I started wanting to jump into the AFP. You have to do 2 years as state police, I believe, in New South Wales, and kind of work your way through there. But I don't know. I just got kind of distracted off that track, and I'm like, law is where the money is, or so I thought. And there is good money there, but if you really want to put yourself in a good financial position, find something you're really good at, and do it yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
When you were working in the corporate world,
yeah.
the skills that you picked up from like your managers or people
Mm.
that are higher up from you, did you notice like certain traits or ways they invested like when they brought up property that you
Mm.
like, okay, maybe I can pick up from them and hopefully I can start something of my own or help others do
Mm.
exactly like what they're doing at the top.
Yeah. Money is pretty taboo in corporate because when you start talking about money with your colleagues or with your manager, people start to kind of pocket watch and think, well, how much money are you on if you can buy one or two properties? Or
Mm,
so it can get a little bit get a little bit hairy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So the only time kind of property or money came up in the corporate world was I don't know, like my manager was really really supportive. I got along very well with her. I knew she did like Airbnb for one property, renovate another property, her home that she moved into. So she was very active in the
yeah,
property world. But aside from that, man, whenever I were to talk to someone or open up to someone like, hey, I bought my second or I bought my third or I bought my fourth property,
yeah.
the attitude just kind of like tapered off from happiness to more like,
Tall
yeah,
poppy
okay, cool.
syndrome.
Yeah, good for
Tall,
you. Yeah.
yeah. I saw from a previous podcast that you were on,
Mm.
you had shared that you had a poor experience with a buyer's agent. Would you say that's what sort of pushed you, to jump into B Money Property?
Without a doubt. Um, I'm the type where I'm a perfectionist by nature. I don't want to touch anything until I know I can do it very well.
Okay.
Let alone I don't want to market myself or jump into a profession if I don't feel like I can do it exceptionally well. So when I had engaged that buyer's agent that I talked about, um, I paid him. I think the fee was about 13,000.
Okay.
Okay, and it was fairly reasonable at the time in terms of what you'd pay a buyer's agent back in 2023, I believe
Yeah.
it was. And I just saw the level of kind of service that I got, and I'm like, hell no. Like, I know I'm not even in the profession at that time, but I'm
Mm.
just thinking, I know I can do a much better job than that. I just need to learn, get access to the tools, which were kind of gate kept. You typically you engage a buyer's agent, and then you're not really informed as to how they're making their decision regarding data, what they're looking at, where they're looking, and the rationale and whatnot. So I took what was missing from what I got and applied that to what I do now.
Okay.
So, I didn't get access to the data, the rationale, the reasoning, the logic, which I like to know. And that's a cornerstone in all the work that I do today. Any client I talk to, I'm talking to them.
What was the area that you had invested in when you?
Lavington.
Is that in Melbourne
Lavington is
or New South
in the
Wales?
Albury region,
Okay. Okay.
Albury-Wodonga region, so it's bordering on New South Wales and Victoria.
Okay.
To give a bit of context, I had told him part of my brief was budget up to 500k, and I wanted a hotspot, an area where I wanted rampant growth because I wanted to be able to pull equity out within a year and a half or 2 years,
Yep.
and then go again. The issue with Lavington was it went back 4% the year that I held it.
What was the
So
reason for that? Like, was there something that was happening, like a lack of infrastructure, government pulled out? Like,
I think the area is good, but the
yep.
timing was wrong. That's a situation of wrong timing. Because if you
Okay.
look at Lavington now, they're doing very well. But if I wanted a hotspot, he put me technically what I would call a warm spot, which it would take about
Mm.
3 or 4 years for the growth to materialize. So there's good fundamentals there, but I bought at the wrong time.
What's the difference between like a hot spot, a booming spot, and like what you're saying, a
Mm,
warm spot? Like, what'd be the
yeah.
difference? And if you can give like examples of suburbs
Mm,
across 10 years, let's not talk about
mm,
Victoria, we'll talk about New South
mm,
Wales. Like, if you give an example so people know these are things that I can look at, and if I
mm,
don't, I can engage a buyer's agent like yourself.
yeah. So hotspot, typically when you talk about, you have hotspot, warm to hotspot, and a warm spot. They're
Yep.
all kind of transitioning phases within the market cycle.
Okay.
Markets, you can look at them as a whole country, you can look at them at a capital city, or you can look at them at an actual suburb level.
Right.
When I talk about markets, I'm talking about them on a suburb level, right? So how do you distinguish between these three? Typically, the kind of main indicator would be the growth rate in the past 12-month period. So if you look at in the past 12-month period, has an area performed between, let's start with, for a hotspot, 10% or more in the past 12 months?
Okay.
That would be an indicator that that is a hotspot, assuming all other things kind of stack up regarding affordability, regarding supply, demand, and the direction in which those trends are going. So you want the supply to be going down and the demand to be going up.
Yep.
But then that growth rate is the indicator for where it kind of would be sitting in that growth rate cycle. That's a hotspot. A warm to hotspot would be transitioning into that, but you have more upside potential. So you're kind of getting into that cycle a little bit earlier. That would typically be performing at about 7 to 15%.
All right.
And if it's on the upper end, then it's transitioning more to a hotspot. And a warm spot would be anywhere under, I'd say, 7% in the past 12 months.
Okay.
But again, the fundamentals need to make sense. You don't just look at the growth rate on its own. You've got to make sure fundamentally the area kind of suggests that it's
So,
going to grow.
if you were to say like a regional area right now, like I have a few mates, they always talk about Tamworth.
Yeah.
Like they always say like Tamworth right now, from what your definition
Mm,
is the next hotspot.
mm,
I look into it and I start thinking I'm like, well, the government is pushing more GPs into that area.
mm.
They're trying to build a population over there. By your standards, would that be more of a warm spot or towards a hot spot?
I think Tamworth is in the middle, so warm
Okay.
to hot.
Yep.
It's transitioning. But you look at Tamworth and break it down. I think East Tamworth is going to be one of the leaders in the area in terms of growth, just proximity, demographics, socioeconomics in the area.
Yep.
Yeah, so Tamworth I would consider it to be a warm to hot spot.
Okay.
Other areas that I'd look for a hotspot, people, this is going to ruffle a few feathers, but Melbourne, it's not like rubbish like what people think it is in terms of growth. As a capital city, you look at Melbourne, okay, the numbers are really underwhelming, right? Break it down into the suburb level. Never take the headline for what it is. Break it down into the suburb level. I know suburbs that have been performing 10, 12, 15, 18% in the past year in Melbourne.
Melbourne, seriously.
Yeah,
So it's
and
more pocket driven over there, so to
absolutely,
say. It's
absolutely, yeah,
like I know over there. I think it's North Frankston. I think
yeah,
North Frankston. They say actually that one of that's why I sent you
mm,
Coolaroo. Like you can buy, and it's what probably an hour away from Collins Street, which is like a massive
yeah,
like CBD area in
mm,
Melbourne. You can be buying over there a $500,000 to $600,000 property sitting
mm,
on 600 square meters.
yeah,
That's like an hour out just from the main city.
Yeah.
But then when you go into the numbers, this is what people tell me. I don't know if this is true. They tell me it's like, oh, but the land tax is so much higher over there than it is in New South Wales. So
Mm.
you're going to be forking out so much on the land tax, and there isn't that much infrastructure that's happening. So when it comes to if we flip the convert to
Mm.
Melbourne, why is Melbourne a big hot topic right now? Is it only just because it's population driven, like they've overtook New South Wales, or is it there's other factors that's happening over there?
Population's a significant driver
Yeah.
of demand, but then you have affordability, right? Think about what you get for your money in Melbourne. Within a 45-minute to 1 hour drive of Melbourne CBD radius, particularly in the west or northwest region, even in the southeast
Yep.
toward Frankston and a little bit further in, you pick up homes for 700,000 any day of the week, and you don't have to really beg for them. They come throwing at you, you
Mm.
know, 600K, 550. There are affordable areas there, and they're not rubbish too. Like I've driven out there myself. I went back there in April, I believe, earlier this year. I drove out to the Melton region. So I went up to Melton West, Coranjang, Harkness, Brookfield, that whole kind of LGA. Wonderful area. Like you look at the data and you think, yeah, it's a growing area. It is a growing area, but it's peaceful. The streets are quiet. The people there are very nice. The shopping centers are very clean. Um, it's a central community. Like it's a nice area.
In terms of yields over there, what are people looking at? Like, are they looking above 4% or
Uh, if you go above four, you'll be pretty lucky. Just that
okay?
we're talking about a
Yeah, yeah,
freestanding home,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You'll be lucky to get over four, maybe 4.1, 4.2. Talking in particularly the Melton area right now, you might be able to get better yields, like maybe 5% if you go to Ballarat, Bendigo areas like that, which is a bit more
Of
regional.
course, of course.
Typically, though, if we're talking about a 650, $700,000 property, your yield might be anywhere between 3.6 and 3.9%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If we flip over to the recent budget changes,
Mm.
Treasury's housing policies, there's a big debate. Like right now, of course, it was not. It's pretty much negative gearing, CGT. All these changes
Mm.
that are coming about right now. So there's a lot of market analysts. They're talking about supply, the constraints,
Mm.
the RBA. Like there's a whole range of factors that's going in there. Are Australians focusing too much on the tax changes instead of focusing on the fundamentals? Meaning, where they're saying, let's say for argument's sake, capital gains, you're not going to be having the 50% discount,
Mm.
so people are getting, discouraged. Should people that are looking to invest, should they be getting into property just, for negative gearing and the 50% discount? Or it's a lot wider than that, and they should be, actually saying, you know what, there's an opportunity now
Mm.
because there's a dip that's actually occurring. Maybe it's a good time for us to jump in
Mm.
instead of being fearful of this.
You know, um, we're in a buyer's market right now, right? And it's ironic that we're in a buyer's market because you have a lot of fear in the market from buyers.
Yep.
But it's a buyer's market for a reason. There's opportunities out there. You can get discounting right now. I have a certain agency in the Penrith LGA calling me every single day, like every day. You know, a month, 2 months ago, I have to call them, and I'd be lucky to get a call back every now and then. Very hard to get a hold of. They're calling me every day.
Mm.
So that tells you not just like the data's one thing, but on the ground tells you that the opportunity is there, the demand is still there if you have faith in the long term prospect of what property is. You know, anyone that's discouraged by CGT negative gearing, I don't knock them for it. They are viable things to not be concerned about, but to be aware of and to understand how you need to rationally react to the change.
Yep.
I don't think it will deter, and it has not definitely deterred buyers, at least that I speak to. Um, but no, I don't think they should deter you. They should make you think more carefully about where you buy and what structure you buy them in.
If okay, you saying that, should someone,
Mm.
like for example, they're making, if we're gonna put salary, because of course,
Mm.
servicing matters, because now I'm pretty sure they've, if you want to borrow, it's sort of being restricted after the
Mm.
changes that's happened right now. If someone's making between 90 to, let's say, $130,000 right now, should, obviously at different ages, should they be focusing more on becoming a first home buyer with the market that we have right now,
Mm.
or stepping in to invest and from there generate the equity and blah blah blah, then jump onto another property? Because there's an opportunity right now, with if you buy a new property,
Mm.
But then if you buy the new property and then you sell it, it basically becomes an established property for the next person that buys it.
Mm.
So all these things people have to start factoring. Should they be jumping into becoming a first home buyer or an investor? Let's say if they're on a 90 to
Mm.
$130,000 range, because not everyone is doing big numbers now, especially in this
Mm.
economy. So where should those people be directing their resources to?
I think fundamentally, even if we just take a step back and say the fundamental rule should be if you were to become a property investor,
Yep.
you need to have a buffer. You know, whether you're on 80K, 120K, you're living at home, you're renting,
Yep.
you need to have a buffer if you're holding an investment property. It's going to cost you money. So, regardless of what income level you're at, if you can afford to hold the buffer, if it's costing you 1,000, 1,500 a month out of pocket and you can't negatively gear it, okay, can you afford to hold it? If the answer is yes, then the prospect of capital growth is still the attractive strategy. You know, if capital growth is your strategy, don't let negative gearing deter you. I've run calculations with clients who they were worried about what it would mean for them to lose the negative gearing benefit, and we run the numbers, and I think it would have cost them on a $650,000 property about
Yep.
$190 more per week to hold the property because you're not getting the negative gearing benefit.
So
Now,
what are you sort of changing when it comes to advisory to like your clients right
I,
now?
I
Because I know some of them are probably impacted
yeah,
with what's happened. So how do you change your advisory to them to make sure they're still building wealth?
I'm much more consultative than most would imagine. So there were times where I've actually lost work because I've had to refer it out to a financial planner to talk about structuring or to talk to an accountant before they get anything set up. Um, so I'm much more consultative now with the people that I work with, not just my clients, but with their other advisors. It could be a financial planner,
Yep.
their other mortgage broker, their accountant. We need to have a much more central advisory support to these people rather than them just relying on a buyer's agent to give them an all-in-one solution. It's not appropriate or fair for them to do that to them. So I'll get them to talk to their planner or broker or accountant before they have a talk to me.
Do you have any accountants that usually come to you, or the financial planners that be like, hey, do you have anything off market for me, right now? Let's say, above a million right now
Mm.
because, they usually say, oh, if it's above, what is it? I think 2.5 million, then you start getting like 100,000 passive income. They say like, of course, like after 20 years.
Mm.
So do those opportunities, especially right now, because they're saying, the auction clearance rate have dropped,
Yep.
right now significantly. So are there more off-market opportunities rather than private things that are happening right now, like being listed? Like are those people coming to you specifically for off-market, especially with everything that's happening now?
Funny you mentioned that. I've noticed in certain areas we have less off-market properties to choose from because the demand has, I wouldn't say cooled off, but even on the sales side, they're a bit more aware of the fact that they're not having rampant amounts of agents and buyers being thrown at them. So when they talk about listing properties with their vendors and the strategy in which they need to list them,
Yep.
I think they're advising their vendors typically to go to on market more than off market because
Wow.
you want
All
to
right.
expose yourself to more of a buyer pool to get the best price that you can as a vendor.
Yep.
By doing it off market, and you have at the same time, if you push it off market, but your off market distribution network is much more constrained than what it was a month or two ago, well, you're
Yep.
not giving your vendor the best chance to get the best price. So, understandably, I think there's less on market. They're still there, but I think from what I've seen in the past few weeks, there's more rubbish on market than what they. Oh, sorry, there's more rubbish off market than what there was a month ago. People are trying to get rid of their stuff quickly because they're fearful of what's going to happen in the market.
Can I ask, is that for both residential and commercial, or is that only happening residential right now?
I can't speak for commercial to be honest with you. Resi,
Resi.
yeah.
Okay. Should people right now be looking more into buying commercial? Especially because I remember I was on the phone with you, we were
Mm,
talking about it, where basically you can still do negative gearing on a
yeah.
commercial property, but of course you need a high deposit. So would you be advising people not to take a pause on residential, but maybe explore your other options in commercial?
Yeah, absolutely. If the number one constraint with the commercial is always going to be liquidity and cash and having enough of a deposit to get in. Deposit, stamp duty, you need at least 20, 30%.
Yep.
At least to get in for it to be cash flow comfortable for lenders to allow to lend. If you can make it work, and if commercial is a way for you to get your passive income target, go for it. Go for it. The opportunity could be
Okay.
there. But typically, you just see that the life cycle of a buyer would be Residential, build your capital, sell down, take your liquidity, and go into commercial and have a bit of passive income. If you're able to get your way there any quicker, man, go for it.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm.
Like I was saying before, they say a $2.5 million property portfolio is what generates, of course, after it's been paid off and it's paying off the loan at the same time, is what gets you 100,000. Is that correct, or with what's happening now, it'll probably go a lot higher than that?
I think that's the general rule of thumb based on the
Yeah,
typical kind of
yeah,
national kind of a yield that you would get on a property.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's about right. But to get there, you have to unencumber $2.5 million worth of property. You know, you have to pay it down. And how do you pay it down? You're not going to pay it down with your full-time income. Typically, you're paying
No,
it down with other
but that's
property.
why they're saying like it's better if you have a joint household income
Yep.
just for the time being,
Hmm.
so you guys can be paying down, so to say, that debt.
Yeah.
Another topic that's been brought up is Darwin.
Mm.
I think I was speaking to you also about Darwin.
Mm.
Is Darwin more of a spot where someone's like, you know what, I've got, let's say for argument's sake, $130,000 on me, and I'm like,
Mm.
I want to invest, because other, I don't want to go by names, but other buyers agents would say you should only look in major cities, because the major cities are the ones that are going to be doing the growth for you.
Mm.
They're going to be eventually generating the passive income for you.
Yep.
Whereas anything outside of Melbourne and Sydney is more just as a way just to say I own property.
Mm.
Do you think that's true, or no?
I think there's a little bit of truth to it. It's kind of a halfway point.
Yeah.
Darwin's a volatile market, man, and LGA's like the Palmerston LGA, which is near Darwin. They do really well, but they're very cyclical and very volatile. I wouldn't advise a client if it was their first investment property. I wouldn't advise them to go into there. You need to have a little bit of a little bit behind you, a little bit of capital behind you, maybe one or two investment properties already under your belt, and then take on a little bit more risk if you can enter that market at the right time.
Because I was looking over there with a friend of mine,
Mm.
and the strata is extremely high on the apartments over there, but the units are cheap, and the rentals are also high as well. So then it looks very attractive on
Mm.
paper. But then when you get into the numbers, like with what you're saying, let's say you buy for 650,000, after 10 years you might drop, because like with what you're saying is a cycle. So if someone let's say has two or three properties, I would say, like, let's say from there, what, 1.8, I'd say, if you
Mm.
combine all there, would you recommend for them to be, selling that, to be putting it all into commercial? Because there is a buyer's agent out there who'd like recommend that. He always tells people, he's like, oh, if you were to generate four investment properties, you're better off selling them all into commercial, because you don't pay the land tax, all the outgoings are passed on to the tenant.
Mm.
So would that be a direction that you also tell people, or it sort of varies among people?
I think it varies, man. There's a time and a place. Each person has their own risk tolerance as well. If I were to tell a client like, hey, by the way, with commercial, there's a significant vacancy risk.
Mm.
If you're buying uninformed and you're buying like one little warehouse unit for 800K or whatever it might be, do you understand that if you can't get it tenanted for 9 months, you got to cough that up? So
100%.
do you have the liquidity to cough up 9 months worth of vacancy? Whereas residential, okay, you can get a tenant in there after a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, but um, there is risk with commercial too. They're not without their risk. I would say buy informed, and you know what I think. Commercial, you need an advisor for commercial. You need a buyer's agent for commercial.
Yep.
Especially if, like, you can't gamble like what people do in residential with commercial. There's so much more at stake with commercial.
So would you say right now is the best time to be, inquiring with a buyer's agent like yourself to start investing into property? No one should be, getting into the actual fee porn
Mm.
of what, the policies are right now. Do you think that's what people should be doing right now, or maybe just taking a pause before, I want to jump back into it?
Mm. I think the people, and this is not trying to put undue pressure to act, but just with the nature of time and hindsight, the people who waited, imagine the people who waited during COVID, and they're like, nah, I'll wait, I'm gonna wait for the toilet paper to come back into stock so I
Yeah.
can buy another property. Like, I would kick myself if I had waited 5 years, and then the market did what the market did with COVID. Granted, there were economic stimuluses and whatnot to kind of pump up that
Yeah.
performance, but regardless of the fact, the whole point is if you're ready to get into the market, get into the market, because any minor news headline, if that scares you, then hand on heart, I can say you don't truly understand the property market. if the RBA comes out and says the rates are going up 0.25%,
Yep.
and that deters you in totality from entering the property market, you don't understand property from a long-term perspective.
So where would you say 4 places in New South Wales right now people should start looking into, and what are the price ranges?
Look, for New South Wales, the entry points are obviously a little bit higher.
Yeah.
If you want to start on the affordable end and you want to look at houses only, have a look at like the Maitland, Cessnock area, Hunter region. They're kind of 800-ish K if you can get around there.
Yep.
Otherwise, Newcastle, areas in Newcastle, I'm still very bullish and favourable on Newcastle. From an infrastructure perspective, they opened up an international terminal airport in Newcastle back in September last year. I don't think many people know that. It's connecting, I think, to Bali, I believe.
To Bali.
I think so.
Wow.
And then it's going to open up to more destinations, but that's going to bring in billions of dollars worth of GDP,
Yeah.
and then employment too.
Well, that bullet train as well, they're proposing, that's been since our parents' time, they've been talking about it.
Yeah.
But they've also, I think they're going to try to bring that to life.
Yeah, it's actually very close. I've been reading a lot of papers about them. That light rail to connect from Newcastle to Sydney and cut down the traffic time.
Yep.
I think we're closer to that than what we were.
Any other regional areas in New South Wales right now?
Funnily enough, I bagged on Lavington, but like I said, it was a bad time. Particular parts of the Albury area would be good to look into. That's regional.
Yep.
Otherwise, if we're talking more closer to Sydney CBD, Penrith LGA is going to see a surge in growth. I think they have already seen pretty good growth, but particular pockets in the Penrith LGA will see pretty good growth, again, because of the airport, because of the infrastructure going on.
Rezoning.
Yep, rezoning.
A lot of that. And if you were to say to Melbourne, areas right now that you predict are going to be having a growth, people want to come to you and ask you, what areas in Melbourne would you say right now?
Okay, East Geelong. Geelong region. I like that. I'm looking there for a client at the moment with a budget up to about $1 million, 1.1.
Okay.
Beautiful homes. Anyone listening on, have a look at realestate.com, jump onto East Geelong, put the budget filter up to 1.1 mil for a 3-bedroom and up, and look at what you can get for your money. Not much comes up, but they're beautiful. Like a really good.
So the supply is restricted there.
Very restricted.
Okay,
and it's coastal too, so they can't really be building more land.
Yep.
They're supply constrained inherently. You can't really change that fact, so that will only continue to appreciate with time. East Geelong, and then move up into affordable areas. You're going to go up northwest of Melbourne CBD, Melton, LGA. So particularly Melton West has seen good growth. I think there's still really good growth to come in that area. Harkness has also seen really good growth. Brookfield is my new kind of favorite in the Melton LGA. Big fan of Brookfield. A lot of the areas owners corporation kind of titled, so we'll try and avoid that and get something freehold.
The areas that you're talking about, are these west of Melbourne?
Yeah.
Okay.
So far west of Melbourne.
Okay.
And then north. When you think north of Melbourne for investment, everyone thinks Craigieburn, and I think they're on the money. A lot of sentiment around Craigieburn is the crime rate and whatnot. There's crime everywhere. I think it just gets an unfair, heavy spotlight onto it. But still, correlation between crime and capital growth, there's no established correlation. It's just.
And I'll say this: most investors that are looking towards that area right now, are they investors like yourself or myself, like are young, or are they more tipping towards the SMSF side? Because of course, with those changes, are more people feeling discouraged on the SMSF side if they want to invest into these areas, or is it more people like yourself, myself, or anyone else that's looking to start investing?
I've got a mix of both, active clients right now. So I have one SMSF client. We're looking for him in Brookfield. So he's got a budget up to 640.
Okay.
And he'll be able to get something there very nice, probably 3-bedroom in Brookfield. But then I also have other clients. They're young. They're first time investors. Never owned a property before, and we're looking in these areas too. They're affordable areas, man. So when you talk about rates going down, variable rates go down. People benefit off that. But also, first-time buyers in affordable areas, they're the areas that are going to perform well because they're opened up to much more of a demographic of buyers that can now afford to get into the sub-800, sub-700 market.
Your predictions for the next 10 years between Melbourne and Sydney, who do you think is going to be tracking to do better?
Genuinely believe Melbourne will outperform Sydney over the next 10 years. Sydney had a very good run. Still going to have a good run, but I think Melbourne will outperform.
Hypothetically, I was just reading today, bird flu is now back on the rise. Hypothetically, a COVID situation happens. Would you still hold to that Melbourne will do better than Sydney, or no? We'll just throw something out there.
You think about COVID.
Because auction clearance in Melbourne now is the same as what it was in 2020. So that's why I'm saying
Man,
it's
if this kind of comes about, like
yeah,
what COVID came about with, and caused mass hysteria,
yeah.
I'll refinance my PPOR and buy as much as I can.
All right, you heard it first.
I'm that bullish on it. I genuinely believe it. For example, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I bought a property in South Penrith.
Yep.
It's my owner Ock home. I bought it for 1.35, and I got a 20% deposit down. Stamp duty was about 57K, and I have money for renos too. But I would not have been able to do that without leveraging from my property investment portfolio. It's nothing crazy, but it was enough to be able to do that,
Mm.
right? But I'm bullish on South Penrith because of what I know about the area. I'm confident in the data. I know that it's going to perform over the long term.
Yep.
But that hasn't deterred me. None of the CGT negative gearing. I bought it off my vendor because the vendor was worried that the market was going to go to rubbish. But
Yep.
I believe in it, man. Big believer in it.
It's like I was saying on another podcast, when people are getting scared, it's the best time for you to be getting greedy, and vice versa.
Yeah, I think Warren Buffett originated that one.
Correct.
Fearful when others are
Correct.
greedy. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Let everyone know where they can find you. Yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah. Instagram nick.bmoney. You'll be able to find me. And I'm on LinkedIn too. If you just hop on Nick Khzouz on LinkedIn.
He's
I'm
very
there.
responsive, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
He'll probably get back to you easy in less than a day. Nick, it's been amazing to have you on.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Good to meet you.
Likewise.